What I wish I knew when I was your age. The truths that will change your life. If you're between 20 and 35 and you're still trying to find yourself, you've already wasted the most important years of your life. Look, I need to be honest with you. I'm not here to make you feel good about your choices. I'm here because I see myself in you. That restless, ambitious person who knows they're capable of more, but feels lost in a world that gives terrible advice. I spent decades making every mistake you're probably making right now. I built search algorithms at Google, worked with brilliant minds, achieved what most would call success. But I also lost years, precious, irreplaceable years, because nobody told me what I'm about to tell you. I wish someone had loved me enough to tell me these hard truths when I was your age. Consider this my gift to the younger me. I'll never get to help. This isn't another motivational video. This is me sharing the 5 most painful lessons of my career. Lessons I learned the hard way, so you don't have to. These truths hurt when I discovered them, but they saved my life. By the end of this conversation, because that's what this is, a conversation between 2 people who want more from life, you'll understand why most career advice is keeping you stuck, how to make decisions your future self will thank you for, and the frameworks that transformed my trajectory completely. I'm not promising you'll like what you hear. I'm promising it will change everything if you have the courage to act on it. Here's something nobody talks about. Your 20s and early 30s aren't practice rounds. They're not a time to figure things out or explore your options. They're the foundation years, the years that determine whether you'll spend your 40s building on success or recovering from wasted time. I know this because I've lived both scenarios. I've watched incredibly talented friends fade into mediocrity because they treated these years casually. I've also seen average people become extraordinary because they understood something crucial. Patterns formed now become permanent later. The hardest part? Most people don't realize they're making life-defining choices disguised as daily decisions. Every time you choose comfort over growth, every time you postpone that difficult conversation, every time you take the safe path, you're voting for who you'll become. I'm sharing this because I see you making the same mistakes I made, and I can't stay silent anymore. Truth number 1. Your first boss will shape you more than your parents did. I need to tell you something that might sting. I wasted the first 5 years of my career chasing salary numbers instead of seeking mentors. I thought a bigger paycheck meant I was winning. I was so wrong it hurts to think about. Your first boss doesn't just give you assignments. They program your brain. They teach you how to think about problems, how to communicate under pressure, how to handle failure. This programming runs deep, deeper than you imagine. Here's my painful confession. I once turned down a role under an exceptional leader because another company offered me $15,000 more. That $15,000 cost me millions in opportunity. The person I didn't work for went on to build 3 successful companies. His other mentees? They're now running major divisions at Apple, Google, and Microsoft. Meanwhile, my high-paying job with a mediocre boss taught me mediocre habits that took me years to unlearn. The colleague I mentioned earlier, Sarah, she makes me proud because she learned what took me years to figure out. When she chose that $90,000 role under a visionary leader instead of the $180,000 corporate job, people called her crazy. Today she's building her second startup and her former boss is her co-founder. Choose your teacher, not your paycheck. I learned this too late, but you don't have to. Truth number 2. You're building your network all wrong, and it's breaking my heart. Every time I see someone my age desperately trying to network with important people, I see my younger self making the same embarrassing mistakes. I used to collect business cards like trophies, thinking connections were about getting access to successful people. Here's the truth that changed everything. The janitor at your first job might become the CEO who hires you 20 years later. The intern sitting beside you might start the company that makes you both millionaires. Your peers today are your partners tomorrow. But only if you were worth remembering when it didn't matter. I still cringe, remembering how I used to schmooze at conferences while ignoring the brilliant people right next to me in the office. Those conference contacts? I can't even remember their names. But the colleague I helped debug code on a random Saturday, he just recommended me for a board position worth $2 million over 4 years. The brutal reality, people don't remember what you wanted from them. They remember how you made them feel when you had nothing to gain. Don't network to get what you want. Network to become someone others want to succeed with. Truth number 3, follow your passion. Nearly destroyed my career. I have to share something vulnerable with you. In my early 30s, I was miserable. I'd followed all the conventional advice, including follow your passion. I was passionate about many things, but passion isn't sustainable when you're dealing with difficult clients, impossible deadlines, and technical problems that make you question your sanity. Here's what saved me. I stopped asking, what am I passionate about? And started asking, what am I curious enough about to stay interested during the boring parts? Passion burns out. Curiosity compounds. I wasn't passionate about search algorithms. Honestly, they seemed dry and technical. But I was curious about how information could be organized to help people find what they needed. That curiosity sustained me through years of unglamorous debugging and optimization. The test that changed my life. Can you find this field interesting on Tuesday at 3 p.m. when you're tired, frustrated, and the work feels mundane? If yes, you found your domain. If no, you're chasing passion, not building competence. My friend who was passionate about photography, he burned out after 2 years of wedding photography because passion couldn't carry him through bridezilla breakdowns and technical equipment failures. But his curiosity about human psychology through imagery, that led to a $300,000 research position at Netflix. Passion is what you feel, curiosity is who you become. Truth number 4, I missed the biggest opportunities because I was perfecting yesterday's skills. This one still keeps me up at night sometimes. While I was becoming an expert in established technologies, my less experienced colleagues were learning emerging ones. They weren't better programmers, they were better at recognizing timing. Here's my biggest regret. When mobile development emerged, I dismissed it as a fad. I was too busy perfecting web development. Those inferior developers who jumped on mobile early, they're now worth tens of millions. I spent 2 extra years becoming excellent at something the world was moving away from. The pattern I finally recognized. Every technological shift creates a brief window where being early beats being perfect. During these windows, your willingness to be bad at something new matters more than being great at something old. Right now, as I'm recording this, AI is creating the same opportunity mobile created in 2008. Climate tech, decentralized systems, biotechnology, these fields are hungry for people who are curious and early, not necessarily experienced. I can't change the opportunities I missed, but I can help you see the ones right in front of you. Truth number 5, your comfort zone is killing your future self. I need to share the most painful truth of all. At 35, I realized I'd spent 5 years in my comfort zone. 5 years of doing work that felt safe, manageable, predictable. 5 years of gradual death disguised as career stability. The wake-up call. I looked around and saw colleagues who'd started behind me pulling ahead. Not because they were smarter, but because they'd stayed uncomfortable while I got comfortable. Here's what comfort really costs. Year 1 feels responsible. Year 3 feels stagnant. Year 5 feels desperate. By year 7, changing requires overcoming not just external challenges, but internal resistance built up over nearly a decade. My personal turning point. At 38, terrified but desperate, I forced myself to learn machine learning. I felt stupid for months. I questioned everything. But that discomfort led to breakthroughs that defined the next phase of my career. The colleagues who stayed comfortable, they're still doing the same work, earning the same salary, facing the same limited prospects. I wish I could tell my younger self, comfort is expensive. It costs you everything you could have become. The truth about knowing versus doing. Here's what haunts me most. I knew most of these principles years before I acted on them. I knew networking was important. I knew comfort was dangerous. I knew timing mattered. But knowing and doing are completely different skills. The heartbreaking reality. Most people watching this will feel inspired, nod along, maybe even save this video. Then they'll return to their comfortable patterns because change feels overwhelming. But you're different. You have to be different. Because settling for average when you're capable of extraordinary isn't just disappointing, it's tragic. Your moment of truth. I'm looking directly at you now, the person who's still watching 10 minutes into this video. You're here because something inside you knows you're capable of more. You feel it, don't you? That restless energy, that quiet desperation, that voice that whispers, there has to be more than this. Listen to that voice. It's the only honest voice you have. Before you close this video, before you return to scrolling, before you postpone your growth for another day, do one thing that scares you. Send that email, make that call, sign up for that course, have that conversation, not tomorrow, today, right now. Because the person you're capable of becoming is waiting for you to stop thinking about change and start creating it. Why I'm sharing this with you. I could have kept these lessons to myself. I could have let you figure them out the hard way like I did. But I see something in you, that same hunger, that same potential I had at your age. I'm building this channel, not to get rich or famous, but because I believe in you. I believe you're capable of extraordinary things, but only if someone tells you the truth about what it really takes. Every week, I'm going to share more hard-earned wisdom, not motivational fluff, but practical frameworks that have transformed careers and lives. This is just the beginning of our conversation. Your story isn't written yet, but every day you wait to start writing it is a page you'll never get back. If these truths hit you like they hit me, don't just subscribe. Commit. Choose the one truth that scared you most and implement it this week. Then come back and tell me about it in the comments. I read every single one. Hit that notification bell, not because I need subscribers, but because your future self needs these conversations. Next week, I'm sharing the exact daily routine that transformed my life from average engineer to someone who helped billions of people access information. I'm not just talking to viewers, I'm talking to the extraordinary person you're about to become. Don't let me down.